This is Rick speaking. Hello and welcome to Champion Individual Rights, where I always focus on the importance of digesting reality in a moral context, with the perspective that every individual should have a right to their own life, privacy, and possessions, regardless of their ethnicity or the geography upon which they preside. Today, we live in a world where U.S. politicians are behaving as if individual rights do not even exist. The U.S. Department of State, which is headed by the Secretary of State for making and conducting foreign policy, makes the claim that, quote, a central goal of U.S. foreign policy has been the promotion of respect for human rights, unquote. The Google definition of human rights is, quote, a right that is believed to belong justifiably to every person. The definition of a person being a human being regarded as an individual, unquote. By definition, there can be no such thing as human rights without the recognition of individual rights. The Google definition of terrorism, quote, a person who uses terrorism in the pursuit of political aims. In the late 18th century, the word terrorize was originally applied to supporters of the Jacobins in the French Revolution, who used violence to terrorize individuals or groups of people in the pursuit of the principles of democracy and equality. The Google definition of terrorize: create and maintain a state of extreme fear and distress in someone, fill with terror. Synonyms: prosecute, victimize, torment, harass, tyrannize, intimidate, menace, threaten, bully. Not all physical violence constitutes aggression. Whenever an act of physical violence has taken place, such as in the invasion of Iraq, in order to make an accurate determination as to who is doing the terrorizing, you have to identify who the aggressors are in the conflict. It is those that are using aggression against others that should be properly identified as being the ones that are doing the terrorizing, not the ones that are defending themselves. So, whose individual rights are being violated? In making morally sound judgments, it must be recognized that all morality stems from the recognition of individual rights. An individual has a right to their own life and to the possessions that they have rightfully acquired. It is those that are violating the individual rights of others that should properly be identified as being the aggressors in any physical confrontation. It is the aggressors that should be recognized as the ones that are doing the terrorizing, not the people that are protecting themselves and their properties from an unprovoked act of physical violence. This same logic applies to the citizens of other countries, such as Iraq, that are protecting their homelands from an invasion which was carried out based upon false allegations and outright lies. There were no weapons of mass destruction or ties to bin Laden and 9/11. U.S. politicians lied to the citizens of other nations that took part in the invasion of Iraq. They lied to all of the citizens of America, including the young men and women that serve in our armed forces. Your masters get away with lying to you, not your public servants. By invading another country based upon false allegations and outright lies, it is the U.S. politicians and their armies that are committing an act of aggression, thereby terrorizing the citizens of Iraq, quote, in the pursuit of, unquote, their, quote, political aims, unquote. U.S. politicians are using violence to terrorize the people of Iraq and citizens of other countries as well, claiming that it is, quote, in the pursuit of the principles of democracy and equality, unquote, just like the Jacobins claimed they were doing during the French Revolution. They are using their private armies to terrorize the populations of other nations, such as Iraq. U.S. politicians have created and maintained, quote, a state of extreme fear and distress, unquote, to the citizens of Iraq. They have robbed, raped, murdered, and tortured the Iraqi people by the millions over what amounted to be a pack of outright lies. If an individual lied about why he killed a large group of people, then he is considered to be a mass murderer. In truth, the American politicians should be bound to the same laws of the conscience that applies to the average citizen of our homeland. U.S. politicians have dehumanized Iraqis by lying about why they are sending them to their deaths and destroying their cities. And in so doing, they have separated themselves from the moral law, thereby acquiring the mentality of a beast. To a beast, life is but a brute fact. The mechanism of legality created an illusion to many Americans, placing the politicians above and beyond the laws of the conscience that the average individual is bound to. Don't let the politicians and the mainstream media mislead you and do your thinking for you. Have the courage to think for yourself. Have the courage to utilize your own understanding. Understand the importance of digesting reality in a moral context. Have a sound thought process where you recognize the importance of defining your terms and the importance of looking for contradictions to your perceptions. The idea that Iraq has been, quote, liberated, unquote, is only an imaginary perception where the word liberation has no intrinsic meaning. In reality, Iraq has been devastated with massive death, destruction, and suffering. In truth, the U.S. politicians and their armies have terrorized the nation of Iraq, along with many other countries that they claim they have also liberated. The deliberate killing of a large group of people of a different ethnicity or a particular nation just happens to fall under the definition of genocide, not liberation. Now is the time for a peaceful revolution of thought. It is time to start fighting and promoting for our rights and for the rights of the people of the world. It must be recognized that the moral law applies to all rational creatures necessarily, to all of humanity, including the political leaders of the world. It is only through our moral cognition and our ability to digest reality in a moral context that mankind can achieve its ultimatum: world peace through the recognition of individual rights on a global basis, with the understanding that every individual should have a right to their own life, privacy, and possessions, regardless of their ethnicity or the geography upon which they preside. Just the opposite position of the morally bankrupt New World Order nonsense that we are all being fed today.